Dear viewer, good evening, and welcome to Spotlight. With me tonight, our Congressman
Yeah.
Holly, and now she's running, and after all the experience, after all, and painting and the relation between the Middle Eastern community
Mm.
and your campaign, this is something unique, because and with the Middle Eastern community there is divide, Republican and Democrat, and this is going to be reflecting this election honestly. You know, there is about 120 Middle Eastern and German high, but outside Dearborn, I heard a lot of people they are interested in voting for you. So tell me how that campaign goes.
Well, thank you so much for having me here at MEA, Wally, and to give an opportunity to share what I'm up to for Michigan. You know, I am a four-term U.S. House Rep. I am one of 13 members of Congress that go to the Capitol in the House of Representatives. The great Gary Peters announced
Good
that,
friend,
yeah,
very good
we
friend.
love Gary, and
Yes.
he is our U.S. Senator, and he is retiring. So his election, his seat, rather, is open. And so, after some deep thinking, after feeling the fire in my belly, I thought this country, this state, the people who live here are worth fighting for. And I have thrown in my hat to run for the U.S. Senate. And there's going to be an election in November. But before we get to that, on August 4th,
You get the
we have what
primary.
is called open primary.
Yes.
So any of your viewers can go to the polls and vote on August 4th, vote in the primary. And I'd be honored to get their vote. Let me tell you why I think I'm deserving of it. One, the incredible, rich diversity and tapestry here of Michigan, are a remarkable Middle Eastern community of Lebanese, Chaldean,
Syrian, Jordanian,
Syrians. Oh my gosh, I love
we
our
have
Syrians.
we have a lot of communities.
We have
And
Palestinian and
Palestinian,
Israeli too.
yes,
There's a
yes.
lot of heated things going on, and we know that. But an undergird is this American freedom, and the Michigan opportunity. People, and this is something I cherish and learn so much about from our Chaldean community, entrepreneurship, starting businesses. And I am business friendly. My parents were small business owners. I want to continue to preserve and protect those rights to be able to start your own enterprise. I work very closely with our chambers of commerce, Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce, but also our Chaldean Chamber, our Lebanese Chamber, the businessmen and women.
Chaldean chamber and the
Yes.
Arab chamber.
Yeah, and we're so proud. We are multicultural. I started back in high school. I started the diversity club, because of all the diversity, around us here in Michigan.
That's right.
And this is how we have such a strong economy here in our state. Manufacturing is our bread and butter. I'm a manufacturing geek, right? That is what I do. I do good policy making, and I use your tax dollars effectively. And if we're not using them, we'll send them back to you. More money in your bank accounts and for your business and capital investments and the like. So, I approach this job through listening, through learning, through understanding what people are going through, what they need, what they want, and then I lead from there, Wally. And so that is why I think I will be our best U.S. Senator, all right? I've got the receipts. I've got champions like Governor Whitmer endorsing my campaign. Senator Peters, as we mentioned, he said, I am his gal. I want to be Michigan's workhorse. I'm not here for celebrity or fame or fortune. I am just here for 6 years of unglamorous work, to stand up for our state, to make sure we're heard in the halls of power, and so that everyone feels welcome and has a voice.
I see. You mentioned the different community in the state of Michigan for the Middle Eastern community. Everybody look at the community and they see the diversity. First, Michigan is multi-part of all the ethnic minority. That's good. And we come to Middle Eastern community. They're all, I don't want to say divided, but they are divided, if we like it or not. I mean, you come to the Chaldean and you're going to see 50-50 Republican, Democrat. You go to Dearborn, all that, you see 65% and 35% Democrat. And don't forget that we have the Syria, the Jordania. They're all,
Yes.
they all, honestly, with the business community, over $18 billion. So we have diversity inside the community. So with what you did in a house was great. And that's why you get all the endorsement, honestly.
Right.
But what thing you have that was part of the of the reason that you went for the Senate? What you didn't accomplish that you're gonna come to the Senate and accomplish it.
Yeah. Well, one thing I know is that the Senate is a bigger platform. And I have some unfinished business for Michigan and the people here. You know, first and foremost, I want us to have better trade deals. I want us to have investment here in Michigan. And the way I think we can do that is by lessening our dependence on China, all right? And creating more manufacturing supply chain jobs here. You know, we talk about the critical minerals sector, which can be processed and refined for these, you know, materials that go into all the manufactured products. That's a way, Wally, to lower costs, right, and create jobs and lessen our dependence on China. The other thing as it pertains to cost is that we very much need courageous leaders right now to look carefully at where costs are going up. You know, I know a lot of your viewers, you know, are business owners, small business owners, sometimes retired family members of business owners, and their costs go up and up and up because of bad trade deals and health care. You know, and so we need to continue to build on this promise of where I've been strong, lowering the cost of prescription drugs. We capped insulin at $35 a month for older Americans, older Michiganders. We need to do that across the board. We need to make Medicare more accessible by lowering the Medicare age. And we need to do what I like, which is a public option. Michiganders need more options. You know, I was talking to a restaurant owner the other day, and you know, I just said, oh, I doubt I'll ever see healthcare costs go down or some good healthcare plan work. Well, you know, I hate that he feels that level of cynicism. It's true. He is being failed. And so when I think about the role of the U.S. Senate, you know, one of two senators that goes for Michigan into that chamber, you know, it is how much good am I doing for people? How much good? This is a trust relationship, and that's the deal, is that people can put their trust in me.
So is that the only thing? For example, we have the road, okay? And we've been hearing about that, you know, we're going to fix the damn roads and all that. But honestly, every time I look at the road, it's construction there. After they fix it, 3 months later, there's construction there. What's the problem here?
Well, one of our big challenges on infrastructure is that we've got legacy issues. You know, in addition to what you're mentioning with the roads, our bridges, our water pipes,
Yes.
you know, the clean air. Our water pipes here in Michigan, in the Metro Detroit area, you know, this is an amazing thing. We've got all this fresh water, but the
Sure.
pipes are 100 years old, you know, so they need to get replaced. Well, who pays for it? You know, and we can't just continue to go to hardworking people and make them pay more and more and more. People are paying too much for everything. Now, there's big business that's coming in here, you know, with these data centers. They're already here. How do we lower costs as a result of that? Now, we all know that the built environment, when it needs to get renovated, think of some of the renovations that have gone on in the city of Detroit with the buildings and the infrastructure there and the roadways. We're no longer a blank slate. You know, we're no longer the Jefferson Highway, which was the first stretch of highway ever in this country, built in the place that we call home here in Detroit. You know, that's not a blank slate. It's got to get renovated. And so we need to be patient with each other. And we also need to make sure that we've got a tax code and a tax structure that as we're adjusting and renovating, you know, we see this across Oakland County with some of the water pipes, they do the replacements. The small businesses take a hit. You
Of
know, so
course.
this is why community is got to come together, you know, and this is why I love what we have with our Middle Eastern community here in Michigan, all our chambers of Congress, all the hopes and dreams, the American dream on display right here, building this incredible country from the place that we call home here in Michigan.
Absolutely. And there is more a problem when we had the COVID. The COVID has gone. What was left after COVID, because of COVID, is mental health.
Yep,
Is
it's still with us.
using the drugs, because after mental health, the second phase is to using drugs so he could get out of the mental health. I don't think Michigan has enough facilities to care about mental health.
Yeah. You know, this has been a problem here in Michigan and even across the country. You know, we think about, in addition to mental health, the foster care community. You know, we had 250,000 children orphaned nationwide from COVID. Now, where are the foster homes? Where is the replacement of the guardian? You know, Livonia, Michigan has a great best practice with IGERA Health, and our police departments. I have helped provide funding for police departments to have mental health officers. But what you are getting at is the infrastructure, the built environment, care, health care resources. And we've really got to go back and look at this. You know, it's all hands on deck here. We've also got 30,000 homeless children, school-age children here in Michigan, just in Michigan alone. That is not acceptable. And so this is a call to action with our leaders, with all the interests on display, all the resources on display to do better. And how I choose to do that is by forming leadership tables, by bringing everyone together, by coming together successfully.
Wally, and I want to say last question because we have to drive her to downtown
Sure,
Detroit.
that was my last one.
Okay, perfect.
Definitely, that was my last one. Okay, education,
Yeah.
and this is the last question that I'm going to ask you. We see the student in Michigan are we're not processing with it, we're not advancing with it. Okay, as a senator, and you'll have more power, more money in your hand to help this.
Yeah.
How are we going to help?
I want to see us fully fund special education. Okay, our schools are robbing Peter to pay Paul. They have a mandate to teach all students of all abilities. So even students with very medically complex challenges, they get a public school bus. Even if they're, you know, they can't fully walk, God bless, you know, they're picked up, they get to go to their school and get their education. But what happens is there's always a missing budget. And so this is why we've now seen decades of decline here. You know, I want to get students back to reading. My father, in addition to being a small business owner, was also a teacher.
Oh, good.
And
Yeah.
he taught reading, recovery, first
Yes.
grade in Detroit public schools. And, you know, I'll tell you, I just read something the other day about how reading in the United States among young people is down. That we, even the adult population, we are reading fewer and fewer books. So we're thinking differently, we're absorbing differently. Isn't it interesting that you asked previously about mental health resources? So when we think about investments in our libraries as well, you know, if we think about our tax code for inspiring readers and lifelong learners and educators, you know, I also have a grant fund program, you know, for our educators so that they can go in and access the tools and the materials that they need to be able to teach and to stay in the teaching profession, to lower some of those costs. I am such an advocate. I've spent 4 terms on the Education Committee, working my heart out, and I'm going to do that in the United States Senate. And you better believe I'm going to be educating on Michigan's incredible Middle Eastern community
Yes.
and the rich history and contributions that get made. And I'm going to make sure that we are heard in the halls of the Senate. So if people can vote on August 4th, for me, Haley Stevens, I'd be so deeply honored.
Well, thank you so much. Just less than a minute. Why they should vote for you, not vote for Arab America.
Look, I'm Michigan's workhorse. I've got the receipts to roll up my sleeves and to deliver for us. I've been recognized as our most effective lawmaker in the House of Representatives, alongside Gary Peters in the Senate, who's also been recognized as effective. I'm going to deliver for us, and I'm going to fight, and I'm going to win for us too, which
Great.
is so very important.
You observed it before. You know, there's a lot of politicians. They come to us for vote and money, but after they won, okay, they forget about us. You stay with us. That's very important.
I do.
Super important.
And that is when
issue.
some of the relationships have been so strong, so lasting, problems that we've addressed together, you know, particularly on some of the bureaucracy, some of the challenges that are going on. You know, everyone is welcome to walk through the doors of my office to be heard, and we have a commitment to help you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming here.
Thank you.
Thanks for the super interest you have in the Middle Eastern Connecticut.
Yes,
And
thank
that
you.
makes a lot to us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wally.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Yeah, everyone, that was my interview with Hillary Stevens. And I mentioned one more time that there's a lot of politicians. We vote for them, we give them fundraising and all that. But after they won, they disappear. They come back 6 months before the election again. Hillary Stevens stuck with us for the whole road. And she is always with our advance, understanding the system, talking about, you know, that issue like a religion and a business issue, because there are a lot involved in the business. So thanks for watching. Yeah.